Morning, folks. Welcome once again to Global Hack Week. I'm glad to see y'all here. My name is Rosendo from MLH. If you're watching from home, you're in for a big treat. We've got our friends from TinyMCE in the house with us. If you want to register and check in for this workshop, make sure you hit up that link at the bottom of the screen there. I'm also going to be dropping it in the comments for the folks at home as well. So make sure you register and check in so you can get credit for being here. Today, we're going to be learning about TinyMCE. If you don't know about TinyMCE, chances are you've used it on the internet just by typing some words into a web browser. We're going to be learning how to build a Laravel email editor using a coding assistant with TinyMCE. So definitely stay tuned. If you got any questions, drop them in chat. Really excited to have y'all here. Without any further ado, we're going to bring up Marina Segosh from TinyMCE. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here. So, today, as Rosendo said, we're going to build an email editor in Laravel. That's not the real special part. What we're going to do is we're going to use an AI code editor called Cursor, which most of you might already be familiar with. If not, that is what we're going to be using. And we're going to connect it with OpenAI and DeepSeek. So if you want to follow along, I would highly recommend going to cursor.ai right now and downloading the application. It's similar to VS Code. You can actually import all of your VS Code configurations, and then you can go ahead and follow us along in this workshop. All right. I'm going to ask Rosento to drop in the Laravel slides for us. And feel free to click on that link over there, and you can actually move through the slides, click the different links, and follow along. So I hope that's helpful as an introduction. Before we get started, I like to do this little thing about who am I? Who are you talking to today? I'm Rina. I started my career off as a developer at IBM, and then I moved into developer marketing in DigitalOceans and now in developer relations and marketing at TinyMCE. I currently work with TinyMCE, which is a JavaScript based rich text editor component. It's used by 1.5 million developers worldwide and in over millions of applications across the internet. If you didn't care about any of that, a fun fact about me is that I love to travel and I've visited over 30 countries. And I also scuba dive. So I'll include that in my next intro. But here's some cute pictures of an alpaca, my most recent trip to Machu Picchu in Peru. So yeah, feel free to follow me on at Myrna Sagosh on Dev2, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, GitHub, and stay connected with all the projects I'm working on, all the cool stuff, whether it's in AIML, TinyMC, JavaScript, cloud. My breadth is pretty wide. All right. So what are we doing today? Today I'm going to introduce to you what is TinyMCE. It's part of the Global Hack Week challenges with AI and ML. I'm going to talk about the use case today. Why are we talking about email editors? Why Laravel? And then I'm also going to be talking about some of the challenges because I think last time there's a request that I present all the challenges that pertain to this workshop and how you can complete them. I'll demo that, show you how to set it up in Laravel. I'm going to actually share the GitHub starter code once we get there. And then I'm also going to be setting it up in OpenAI, which is already set up for us in the starter code. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take it a step further. One of the challenges was to connect it with a local LLM, and I'm going to be actually connecting it with DeepSeek today. So if you hang in until the end, I can show you how to run DeepSeek locally on your machine and connect it. So DeepSeek has been having this huge buzz all over, and let's just see how capable it is and how much you really have to tune it in order to use it in your application. All right, so let's get started. What is TinyMCE? So as I said, TinyMCE is a JavaScript-based rich text editor component. It's pretty UI friendly. It has an extremely adaptable UI. In fact, you will see that in the workshop I did last week and the workshop I'm doing this week, the UI is actually completely different. And you can integrate with any framework that you choose, including Angular, Laravel. So last week, the workshop I did in Angular. This week, I'm doing it in Laravel. So really integrates into multiple frameworks. I believe it's 12 or 14 frameworks. And there's actually two deployment options. So it is a open source GPL2 licensed project, which means that you can pull it in as JavaScript files and point to that specific component and use it all within your project without hosting it. But for today's use case, we're going to be hosting it on the cloud. That just means that the files for JavaScript are served through a CDN. All right. And if you still don't know what TinyMCE is, it's this rich text editing box where you can do bold, italics, underline, insert images, videos. This is an example of TinyMCE in Shopify. We are used by clients such as Microsoft, Salesforce, you name it, IBM. And it's just very versatile, rich text editor that lives on the internet, and we have AI capabilities. All right. So again, I'm gonna drop in the link for the YouTube video from the last workshop. This is what we built last time, right? I'm not gonna build this again. We already built this. This is an email newsletter that we built using Angular. I have a challenge for you. If you really want to test your skills, maybe try building it in Laravel again, right? So the videos over here, go check it out, follow along, and you can actually reproduce this app. I also have a starter code for you to get started. And if you follow along with me, we're doing that workshop completely in a different editor called Windsurf AI Editor. So you can follow along with what that code editor itself. All right. But for this workshop, and I also talk a little bit about AI coding and AI coding assistance. Don't want to really repeat myself there. So feel free to go check that workshop out if you want a little bit more sort of high level knowledge and lecture on what are AI, what is AI agents, and so on and so forth. For this workshop, we're going to build a very simple email editor with a simple send button on the bottom. But if you'll notice, the UI is kind of different. For an email newsletter, we kind of copied what HubSpot had with TinyMCE, right? The toolbar is at the top, the menu bar is hidden, there's no status bar, and all of this kind of configuration is in the top. Versus for this email editor, we're going to move all the configuration in the bottom. Similar, if you open up Gmail right now, that's kind of how it is. And we're going to be typing out templates, maybe having, some more nice little fonts in there, some merge tags, which is part of one of the challenges, and so on and so forth. So we're going to do a little bit of a different editor. Same concept. It's still an email editor, but serves a completely different use case, which is sending messages back and forth. All right. So I hope that still excites you. And then finally, we're going to connect it with AI, both an OpenAI assistant, which is built into the starter code. So I wanted to make it a little easier for you, and also a local LLM that we'll set up using Llama, Olama. All right. Sweet. Now, demo time. All right. So here I already have this app set up for you. I'm going to drop in the link for the GitHub repository, or for you to get signed up for this account, as well as, hold on, I should probably find the GitHub repository myself. My bad, I should have sent this earlier. All right, here's the GitHub repository. We'll be sending this, and you clone this repository, and if you run over here, we have my app running. So this is Cursor AI. It looks very similar to Visual Studio Code. It's slightly different UI. Of course, in Visual Studio, these things are kind of buttons on the side. There's source control. You can search, find, and replace, your usual notepads outline, all of the above. And then what the AI part is sort of having this chat, very similar to Windsurf AI as well, having this chat on the side. Of course, you can also select things and chat with the AI on specific contexts, or you can edit it as well. So that's kind of the AI editor part of it. And so I've pulled in this main branch, as you can see, and I'm running the application. In order to run the application, you actually just have to run PHP, like run serve. And I can show you exactly where to get that command. Yeah. So if you look at this is the PHP composer.json file. We also have a package file that tells you the Vite configurations. We're not going to be running this using Vite because I do have Composer over here. So you just do PHP artisan serve to get started. All of the sort of how to get started with this application should be in my GitHub repository. All right. So I'm going to walk you through this starter code. So PHP, Laravel is, of course, the backend for a PHP framework project. And what we're doing is I actually have these components. We're actually going to be focusing on these components specifically, right? And if I change this to say TinyMCE news uh, temp- email templates or something like that. Let's see, switch back in, refresh. You can see the input text has changed over there for my text area. The way this is built is basically we have a simple HTML template in Blade. If you don't already know, Blade is a pretty simple, powerful templating engine that is included with Laravel. So unlike some PHP templating engines, Blade does not restrict you to use very specifically PHP code. In fact, you will see that I've been using HTML, I'm using JavaScript over here. You can even use React. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways in which you can do this. If you want to have a little bit more next level and build dynamic interfaces, I would highly recommend checking out Laravel Livewire. Livewire actually allows you to write Blade components that have a dynamic functionality, and you would usually see those kind of things in React or Vue and so on and so forth. So yeah, highly recommend checking this out. For now, I've just set it up with Blade and just Laravel. And once we have this set up, you can actually, in the slides, um, I have this kind of set up resources so you can clone your repository, get into Laravel Quick Start, and understand how we built this out. Follow the Quick Start word for word, but I didn't want to spend too much time like telling you how to install TinyMCE. Again, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty two-stepped. And yeah, I have my API key stored in my environment file just so that I avoid like showing it off for you. If you want your own API key to be inserted, you actually just go to your environment file over here, and you would install your TinyMCE API key as well as your OpenAI API key over here so that we can use OpenAI later. Once you do that in your environment file over there, you should be able to use this right out of the box. Again, the sign up link for TinyMCE is in the comments. Feel free to sign up so that you can kind of get started with this demo. It's a free trial, there's no credit card, so it's pretty easy to sign up. All right. Once we have this, I am actually going to, so I'm running this application already. It's loaded. Looks like it's working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you uh, the, the challenges end tomorrow. Today's the 12th. I believe you have to turn in all the challenges by tomorrow. So here's like the 3 to 4 challenges that we have for you from TinyMCE. The first one is adding merge tags and templates. The second one is having enhanced code editor and inline CSS. And then the third one is multi-route editing and AI assistant. So inline CSS I actually covered in the previous workshop. And it has a pretty neat functionality to use it with the newsletter editor. So I'm not going to go over that now. So I'd highly recommend checking out workshop 1, but I will go over all of the other ones. And multi-route editing, the same thing, right? Makes more sense with a newsletter thing with multiple editable areas. So I'm going to go over merge tags, templates, enhanced code editor, and an AI assistant plus the DeepSeek within AI assistant. All right. So in order to do that, I'm first, if you remember my example from earlier, I had all of this in the bottom, right? I got rid of this sort of menu bar thing. I don't have this built with TinyMCE, and I moved all of this to the bottom. So let's try to first get that accomplished with, of course, an AI coding assistance. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna do Command L, and I'm gonna say at tiny. So if you notice over here, what I've gone ahead and done is I've actually pointed to TinyMCE's documentation. So you can point to a specific site and add that to your documentation. So at docs, you can, add new documentation and add a very specific place. But for now, I'm going to try this, and, it could be a hit or miss. Again, I'll give my kind of overview and cursor right after, but I want to show you the functionality from the start. So I'm going to say add TinyMCE, and then maybe even search the web. I want to hide the menu bar, hide the status bar, and move the toolbar to the bottom for the TinyMCE config. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to hit enter. Again, I'm doing this live. Bear with me if it's not going to be fully accurate, but the advantage is you have a TinyMCE expert who can actually evaluate this. All right. All right, I'm going to hide that because I don't think you need a project configuration. So let's look at this. So it says hide the menu bar. That seems right to me, right? Um, Menu bar is false, status bar is false, and it says toolbar location is in the bottom. I think that looks good to me. So what you can go ahead and do is actually just, instead of copying this, you could copy it, but you could also apply it. So I'm going to just say go ahead and apply this. Probably apply this here in the bottom. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and accept that, save, and then let's go back and refresh our browser. And look at that. It is all live. So we have this email editor, the templates over here, everything is in the bottom. We don't have this weird looking status bar, and we have hidden the menu bar. Great. That happened with just a few clicks. In fact, you or I did not even have to go into the documentation. Cursor AI sort of did that for us, and that was great. So I think that's a good start. Let's see. What are a few other things I would like Cursor to do? I think I saw the sort of formatting toolbar. And I'm probably going to tell Cursor to, oops, not Cursor settings. So I'm used to using Windsurf AI. That's kind of my go-to code editor. So we're trying this together, okay? So I'm going to go over here and say, again, at the TinyMCE. So this is a nice thing about Cursor that I do agree. This is very new. It actually launched like a week ago to my luck. So doing this workshop second actually helped, but having this very doc specific thing and web is a great combination, because not only are you asking it to search the entire internet in case there's Stack Overflow GitHub solutions, but you're also asking it to focus on the TinyMCE docs, and you can feed it that information. So you're saying at TinyMCE at web, I want a formatting. Oops, I cannot spell formatting. Toolbar group that that replaces. Maybe you should be more specific. That replaces, or let's do this. That has all of the formatting things like bold, italic, underline, etc. Okay, I'm not going to be actually that specific, and I want to see what happens for you live. So we're asking Cursor AI to search the web, to specifically search TinyMCE documentation that I've loaded in. And it's going to go ahead, do a few things, and it's going to give me some suggestions. So this is where I think it's a little different. Yeah, so it tells me that, hey, this is what it is. Yes, I want to give me the code for it in the TinyMCE config. All right, so you have to be a little bit more specific, and that's the difference. I did the same step in Windsurf AI, and you can kind of see the difference on how it understands natural language. I do think Cursor is not the greatest in being agentic yet, even though they claim it's agentic, and there are a lot of like ways in which it does ask you, and we just did an agentic flow where I asked it a question, it gave me an answer, and it inserted code. But here, if you see, it's kind of just like, do you really want me to code, or did you understand what I'm trying to say? For toolbar group, I'm going to emphasize that I want a toolbar group over here, and if it doesn't do that, I can go ahead and start like coding it. Okay. So it came up with the formatting. It put it in there. I don't know if I need all the style formats. All right. Cool. So I think I like this. I probably don't. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so I can read it myself. I don't agree with all of it. You don't When you're doing this formatting, you actually don't need all of this style formats. Of course, you can define custom styles for each things. But right now, I just asked it to do a simple task. So I don't want it to insert all of it. So you could say apply. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just showing you a different workflow. I'm going to go ahead and add this as like a toolbar group option. Um, and then I'm going to add, let's see, formatting. Uh, Over here. Okay, I'm adding formatting over here, and I think formatting included remove format, so I don't think I need that. There you go. Sweet. I sort of figured out how to do that on my own. Um, like this. Honestly, I think align can live within formatting. So I'm actually gonna, I'm pair programming with the AI assistant. Whatever it gave me, I'm like, yeah, I agree with it. But I also think there's some things that can live there. All right, I'm gonna simplify it. Now I have format select. Maybe format select should also live in there, but let's do this for now. And I think that's all you need. I needed a toolbar groups that did it right. Formatting, insert an icon, tooltip is formatting. All of that sounds great to me. Now let's go to my art browser. And there we go. Sweet. I have formatting over here. All of this lives in here. That's great. It actually kind of looks odd for this formatting to be outside. So I'm going to move it inside. I'm going to say, let's move that here. Let's move all formatting together. Um, and all of that looks good to me. Sweet. Outside of that, I don't think we have too much going on here. Um, let's see. Oh, maybe blocks is also something we need to put inside formatting as well. Sweet. So that kind of shortens my toolbar up. It looks a lot cleaner, honestly. And, this is actually one of the challenges, like create something that looks nice in terms of like an email editor and, play around with the layout. So I wanted to show you an example of how we did that. And, we're getting there. I actually probably shortened a lot of this myself just to kind of get rid of it from looking messy and all of that. All right. So the next step in terms of challenges, and I know last time people wanted me to connect this back, was let's try one of the challenges, which is merge tags. All right. Again, I'm a big fan of testing this code editor to see like how it performs. So I'm going to say again, at TinyMCE. So go to the docs, at web, and then I'm going to ask it to add merge tags to a TinyMCE editor, right? So I'm gonna go ahead, editor config. Let's add that because I've been doing that and it's a lot more consistent if I do that. So so typical AI coding agents, and while this is loading, I'm gonna say this. It's a combination of coding with AI and maybe asking it to do a few things and then doing a few things on your own as well. So it's not purely that I give AI a text and it goes does this because as you can see, like yes, it got merge tags list, the prefix and suffix here, but it didn't really stop and ask me what I wanted in the list. It kind of just auto generated something for me. And I agree, I didn't specify, but I sort of expected to sort of say, oh, here's a custom list. Do you want any changes to it? So I do expect to sort of stop over there for like a level of understanding of what is happening. But then again, we're just getting started with coding with AI. So yeah, it says go ahead and add merge tags. I'm going to select where I want to add that. I'm going to add it to my plugins option. And then so I added it to my plugins, I added it to my toolbar. I'm going to select where I want to add it. And then it says that I need to specify the prefix and the suffix. You actually don't. By default, it's double curly braces, so you don't need to specify it unless you're changing the prefix and the suffix. So that is slightly inaccurate. It overthought what was going on. And then in terms of the merge tag list, I actually have my own merge tag list. So, again, this is a combination of yes, we are listening to this. Yeah. Yes, we are listening to this AI editor, but we also might have our own set. So I have this here for a more email like experience with contact name, sender name, and subscription. I would have already given it to the AI if it asked me for some information, if I had requirements. So we're going to go ahead and see how that looks. There we go. I see merge tags. I see I can insert. And as I said, you didn't need the prefix and suffix. And you would know this if, you know TinyMCE well. So the assumption really, especially with something like Cursor AI, is you know your code base pretty well and you understand like when to accept certain commentary from this and when not to, right? Um, and you can actually ask it follow-up questions. Do I really need merge tags prefix? You can just ask that and let's see. No, you don't need it unless you want to change the default values and the default values. Here's a simplified version, and it's able to sort of take that feedback and change it over. But again, there is a lot of things that you do need to sort of configure in terms of that. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is, as I promised, templates. I do have some preset templates that I'm going to install. So this, I'm going to actually do it on my own. And I'm going to say, and I'm actually, maybe I'll say this in advance. I'm going to try to make an error over here. Advanced templates. Just so that I can show you some of the functionality of this editor itself. So over here, I'm going to say insert template. So I've brought down advanced templates, which should, if you know TinyMCE or if you're looking at the code right now and following along, you know that it should be advanced template. And yeah, I'm bringing in this, and I'm also going to be adding in some options here. All right. Maybe I should add this right after toolbar. Cool. Here are some advanced templates. All right. And if those of you, and I see that there's a question about templates. So for those of you who don't know what a template is, a template is basically a reusable sort of fixed snippet that you can insert content into your rich text editor. It's very common practice in content management system, email editors, document management. Basically, they're predefined, user defined, or both. There's a way to add templates. I'm not going to dig into that. They're in the docs already. But for now, they're predefined templates that we're setting as like a company, for example, for our contact or salesperson people to use while building out this editor. So I'm going to refresh it, and I see that my template is not here. I'm going to wonder why. Any ideas from the comments on why this is not working? If you've been looking at the documentation yourself. All right, it's a silent cloud. So I'm actually going to ask this, and I'm going to say, why is this plugin not working? And then refer to TinyMCE, of course, and at web. Cool. I'm and a typical developer workflow would have of course been to look at that, but that would give me the answer. So just trying to mess up here a little bit so that let's see if cursor can find my bug in the code or catch it. So it actually didn't see where I selected. It just is kind of outlining the entire TinyMCE file and saying, yeah, it looks like something is wrong. Maybe let's try, why isn't the templates plugin working? All right, let's try that again. Okay, it's offered a fix to me, and that's actually wrong. So I know the fix. So just realize that GPT or this can't actually do everything. Advanced template needs to be actually changed to advanced template. There's no more template in the plugins list options. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And look at that. A template has been inserted. You can have an intro. We can probably build out this entire sort of thing over here. Um, I don't know. You can have a footer. Um, and one of the cool things is maybe you want to edit this footer. And right now you can see that there's no way unless you click this and maybe you align right and you justify it, you eventually get it here. Or if you are very specific about styling, what you can do is, and this is moving into like sort of the next thing, is bringing in the code editor plugin in order to, edit code within your editor. So advanced code options. And then I'm going to have, oops, code. And I know how to do all of this. So, I'm able to do it. And then I'm actually going to say that advanced code inline true. I think that's how that works. And that just means it'll not make it a dialogue. So, yeah, cool. Sounds good. Now, as I said, let's try to insert some of these templates again. I'm going to do this quickly. We have a CTA button. We have, let's say they build this out, right? We have this. And then I want to edit that, and I actually want this subscription thing to be aligned to the left. I don't want it to be aligned center. Okay? I can actually change this right within the editor if you saw that. It was previously center, I changed it to left. You can format the code, you can change it to dark and light mode, and you can really see the HTML behind this. This is really powerful for email editors, especially folks who are trying to, just get started and have like a very clean templated thing that follows like their brand language and so on and so forth. So yeah, you can do that, and maybe even next to the subscription, you want an unsubscribe link, and look at that. You're already building out this fully fledged sort of email editor experience, and yep, that's kind of all there is to you install a plugin, you add it to your toolbar option, and then you add a few formatting things, and you should be good to go in terms of merge tags, templates, and enhanced code editor. So that actually completes two challenges for you. Again, if you want to do multi-route editing, highly recommend watching the previous workshop to get a sense of how to do it. Basically, you set the editable route to false, so that the background, like this entire text box, is not editable, and then you specify specific sections. Maybe this button is editable, this title is editable, but like the rest of it is not. So you can set specific classes. It's a lot of it like HTML tweaking, but very valuable in terms of like a newsletter editor, as we saw before. All right, so we've done all of this using Cursor AI. You can see that compared to Windsurf AI, I would say Cursor is a lot more hands-on. You do need to be able to correct it. It doesn't get the responses right all the time and does lack a little bit of understanding of the code base, despite providing the specific link to the documentation. But hey, it is what we have right now. All right. And then you might notice that this AI assistant is already sort of plugged in and ready to go. Make it more professional. This is actually connected to OpenAI by default. And there's something here. You can just, delete some of these extras that the API gives you. It feels like a pretty solid, decent newsletter. Now, let's say you got directive at your company that you need to switch out the AI assistant, right? Technologies is not always the same, and there can be a lot of different requirements. So, with the AI assistant, switching out and connecting to different integrations is actually pretty simple. I've attached the AI assistant here in the slides and the docs. So feel free to go and look at the slides to see how to do the integration for OpenAI. It's pretty straightforward in terms of the AI request itself. Of course, because we're doing this in Laravel, I did. Oops. Um, Hold on. Let's open this back up. So if you look over here, this actually, the route connects to AI stream, which is a post request. So if you hit post, um, this form accepts a post request. If you hit post, it streams a specific response. And then if you look at um, the AI controller, hold on. There we go. It's sometimes hard to find files in here. The AI controller, which is under HTTP controllers, you can see sort of the back end of the streaming response where I bring in the Open API key, and so on and so forth, right? But for this example, you shouldn't have to worry all of that. I sort of set it up for you so you can get started and, at least complete the first part of the challenge. The second part is, of course, connecting it to your own LLM. So the cool thing is I have this, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to walk you through the steps. It's actually in a few simple steps, you can have your own Olama instance of DeepSeek running. So the first step is to brew install Olama or, whatever installer you want to use for Olama. The second step is to actually pull Olama DeepSeek -R1 1.5b. Because it is a laptop, I'm using 1.5b. Again, you will see that it hallucinates a lot. It's very thoughtful, very verbose, but it's kind of cool for the purposes of this demo. So what I'm going to do, and then the next step, once you pull Olama, is to run Olama. So once you pull it, you just say run, and hey, you can see that Olama is running. If you want to confirm that it's actually running, what you can do is localhost 11434 is kind of the URL where it would be running locally. And let me zoom it in, and you can see that Olama is indeed running. It kind of gives you like a confirmation that it's running. Sweet. So once we have all of that set up, and again, it took like 2 steps, just install Olama, pull the specific model, and hit run, and then you navigate to this port. Once you have all of that set up, what you need to do is actually just configure this API response to ping, let's see, to ping our final workshop. So what I'm going to do is, instead of saying await fetch stream, I'm actually going to point it, and this is all the changes. So follow along over here. I'm actually going to point it. Actually, let me hide that. I'm going to point it to localhost 1134. That's where the Olama is. V1 chat completions, very similar to OpenAI. We use chat completions, and that's all. That's all I'm going to do, right? And then you don't need this CSRF token for the header when you're running it locally, right? And then in the body, you need to only specify the model. So I'm going to be specifying, here's the messages, there's a user, the contents, request.query, same kind of logic. You can set the stream to be true if you want. I'm going to start with false, and then we can try to see if we can set the stream to be true. I'm going to say it's DeepSeek R1, the one that we pulled. And then finally, what we need to do is over here, I return data.content. Olama returns it slightly differently. It returns it with data.choices, and then the first choice has a message which has a content. So the sort of structuring is slightly different between APIs. And then of course, depending on the API, you need to do different things with it. But that's all the changes you really need. To run this LLM locally. So you fetch from this specific endpoint that I already have running. As I said, I had this open and I'm actually running this. You can actually check if this works, right? What is 2 times 2? And you'll see that DeepSeek is running and it thinks. And this is the response that you're going to unfortunately get. It's pretty verbose. It's DeepSeek. If you know anything, it's not concise. Claude is probably the more concise of the LLMs. DeepSeek is very verbose. It kind of goes through all of the thought process. So the responses are going to be quite funny since we're not really modifying them. I'm just directly pinging the LLM. I'm doing a post request. I'm doing some messages. User, all of this I think looks good to me. And so with 3 changes, I'm going to move back over here. I'm going to go over here. Oops. Here. Uh, Actually, I'm going to copy this just so that when I refresh the screen, we have some sort of starter code to go off of and I don't have to redo this all for you guys. So yeah, as you can see, this works even with the copy paste into HTML. So that's kind of cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this and I'm going to say rewrite this to be more fun yet professional. Again, I'm asking this of DeepSeek and I'm going to hit enter. It's very interesting how it sort of collects the context as well. All right. All right. And as you can see, this is a very classic DeepSeek response, but this is kind of what you would get when you ping the API right now without many filters. Of course, you need to tweak it, you need to do it, but maybe maybe we start over here, right? Okay. This is all the thinking that DeepSeek decided to do. I'm going to say, welcome to this thing. It's in TinyMCE, all of their, yeah. So it's fun. It's not professional. Well, it's kind of professional, but it's a lot of fun. And, you have a local LLM running connected to TinyMCE. This is pretty cool. It's very versatile. As you noticed, I didn't do that many changes. I kind of just changed where I'm pointing to, specify which model, and then specify how I'm getting the response back. And that's it. And just like that, I was able to connect to DeepSeek with TinyMCE, which I think is pretty cool if you've not already done your own sort of setup local LLM and connect it with TinyMCE. This, of course, works with any local LLM that you're running at a specific port. As long as you have a port and a completions sort of API, you should be able to connect it with TinyMCE. So feel free to do this. Maybe check out some other open source LLMs out there. Olama has a huge, you know, uh, huge resource. So actually, if we go to olama.com, you can actually just look at all of the models that are available. As you saw, I use the lowest sort of density for my model. You can go all the way up to 671 billion. I don't need that much for this demo, and I don't think my computer has that sort of bandwidth to run that. So there's Llama 3, there's Mistral. So highly recommend checking it out and using it with your own version of TinyMCE. Oops. All right, sweet. Now, I believe that's it for today's workshop. It helps you complete all of the challenges. Honestly, it should take you anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes with this starter code or with the previous starter code from the workshop to complete a few of the challenges at each step. Feel free to follow along, look at how it did the code, and use the AI code editor to make you complete these challenges faster. All right, any questions from anyone? It's a pretty quiet chat today.
Hi, Marina. Yeah, it's pretty quiet, light crew in here today. But yeah, the content was great. Once again, if anyone has any questions, drop them in chat. Now is your time. If not, I will go through some of the resources that were linked. First and foremost, the challenges that Marina mentioned earlier. You can grab them at the link that I just posted in the chat. So it's going to be mlh.link/GHWAIML225 dash TinyMCE. So all of the challenges can actually, not all of them, but most of them can actually be completed. The three that we mentioned during the workshop can be completed utilizing this workshop itself. The recording will be available later on, so you can reference it once again. You have until tomorrow afternoon to get things done on the East Coast side, obviously 12 p.m. ET. So yeah, make sure you get cracking on those. And on top of that, we've got the GitHub repo that was mentioned in the slides. The slides themselves, the link is there. And of course, if you want to sign up for TinyMCE, go to the link that I just popped up there. For the folks following along at home or watching this recording later, you'll be able to see all of those links and also join us on Discord. If you have any questions, we'll have them, we'll have folks available to answer your questions as well as they can on our Discord server specific to GHW. And also, we will have an Ask Tiny MCE channel that you can just drop all your Tiny MCE related questions into. Outside of that, yeah, I mean, if there's no questions or answers, I don't know, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of get off your chest before we before we wrap things up?
I'm all good for my end. Just try a cursor, try a windsurf, and I hope to see everyone coding with AI.
Wonderful. Same here. We hope you enjoyed the workshop. Marina, once again, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Great workshop and great content. We're really looking forward to everything everyone out there builds this week. I know we've got limited amount of time in terms of Global Hack Week wrapping up, but there will be other opportunities for y'all to engage with Tiny MCE moving forward. So make sure that you keep it locked in. Outside of that, yeah, we will see you soon. We have some more content coming up for you right after this. So be sure to stay on Twitch and check it out. You could also check out our schedule at ghw.mlh.io/schedule. All right, y'all.
Thank you.